Another drum for you now, except that this is a place called Dromantine, an Irish name meaning Ridge of the Ferry or Foxglove. It's hard to imagine a more beautiful setting for an elegant manor house, and Arthur Innes, who built this part of the building in 1810, must have thought so as well. In earlier centuries, it had been a McGuinness stronghold. Nowadays, since 1926, it has been in the hands of the Society of African Missions, who ran a seminary here to train missionary priests for 45 years. Since that time, it has become a residential retreat and conference centre. I said that Arthur Innes built the original part of the building, but the new wing, called St Patrick's, was added in the early 1930s by the then provincial of the Society, Father Maurice Slattery. Over here on the right is the original 19th century mansion built by Arthur Innes, and a kind of ornate style of architecture employed, as you can see. And adjoining it here on the left hand side is the new wing built by Father Slattery in the 1930s with considerably less money, I hasten to add. But he has taken pains to try to copy the original architectural style. Look at the details on the window and above the door. But when it came to copying the interior of the building, then he had a much more difficult task on his hands, as you will see. With the relatively limited resources at his disposal, he had no way, and perhaps no desire, to emulate the spacious and elaborately crafted interiors of the 19th century mansion. The high ceilings with their delicate lacy plasterwork, the gracious drawing rooms overlooking the lake and grounds, the timeless elegance of furniture and fittings denoting the wealth and good taste of previous owners. All of this, as you can see, has been maintained in its original style and pristine state by generations of SMA fathers, to be enjoyed nowadays by visitors who might indulge in the temporary delusion of a plush and elegant lifestyle. Father Slattery's interiors, though bright and airy, are austere in comparison, but then his building was functional. It was a seminary, a theological college, and all of its graduates were destined for Africa. Father Des Corrigan nowadays runs the Dromantine Centre, but he himself went through the training here.
Along the corridor here there will be about 600 photographs of about 600 men who were prepared for priesthood and ordained from here and went out to Africa.
I'm just looking here, we're now up to the 1950s and so on. I'm just trying to see, which year would you yourself have appeared in one of these photographs, or am I going to see that here at all? No?
I'm a bit younger than that.
So we haven't reached you yet? No. I wasn't suggesting for a moment now that I was expecting to see you in that one.
1967
right.
was the year that I was ordained, and that's
when the priest started having long hair. For
that's
example.
right.
Right.
We're somewhere in there.
You were 1967, so that's you there.
That's me there.
You haven't changed a bit.
Thank you very much, Joe.
Really
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Seriously haven't.
Thank you.
So, and that was only a few years before this stopped being a seminary. Is that
That's right.
Yeah.
This was the last group that were actually ordained here in 1971. And then after that we moved.
Which was only a small group at that stage.
That was the time when the numbers were beginning to get smaller. That's correct.
Yes.
But now what's happening is we have big numbers being ordained in Africa for the SMA. Yeah. There's been a huge kind of transition from, if you like, from Europe and from the Western world towards Africa and other parts of the world indeed too. And you'll notice along here we had big numbers back in the 40s and 50s and 60s. But now we have just as many students around the world, but they're mostly in Africa and India. And
so the SMA fathers in Africa are mostly Africans. Is that what you're
yes,
saying?
It's moving in that direction. We would still have quite a big number of Irish and European SMAs there, but they're a bit like myself, getting older, whereas the younger people coming in would be African, from countries like Nigeria and Ghana, Kenya, Tanzania, Zambia, South Africa.
But the African connection is still very, very, very strong.
Very, very strong. Very, very strong.
Yes. As evidence of the strength of that connection, Father Corrigan then showed me what they have called the African Link, a display of African religious art whose beauty and skill of execution must surely rival the grandeur of the 19th century manor. These carvings and sculptures are entirely African in every aspect, but they're expressions of what Father Corrigan calls the enculturation of the gospel.
And there was an SMA priest called Father Kevin Carroll, and he did a huge amount of work in developing that idea of using a local art form like the carvings to express Christian themes. And here we have an example of it. This is obviously the nativity set. Yes. That was carved in Ikitiland in western Nigeria in the 1950s.
So the wood carving skills and that style was already indigenous in the area?
Oh yes, it was. And up to then they had used it to express their own traditional religions.
These are more traditional kind of wood carvings that we're talking about.
These are actually from Ghana. These two are from Ghana. You have to have a great kind of respect for the people that you go to live with and work with. And in fact, we always find that we learn a lot from the people of Africa. We might go out in the beginning thinking we're going out to give a lot and that we have a lot of answers, but when you're there for a while, you discover that they have very rich traditions and beliefs, and we can learn a lot from them and from their values. And then I suppose to try to bring together or to marry like some of the values of their cultures and their traditions with the Christian values.
The fusion of different traditions and values expressed in the form of sculpture or carving is something with which Father John Travers would be very familiar. Retired now to Dromantine after years of mission work in Africa, Father Travers is nowhere happier than in his workshop, surrounded by little bits of Africa whose innate beauty he delights in releasing.
What would your own favourite wood be to work with?
The colour of mahogany is beautiful, but I love the native. You'll see a bit of native ash over there.
Yeah.
Green is beautiful.
Right.
I think the wood turner works. When you get the shape going, you're now like a painter. You want to expose the little grains, you see.
I see, right.
Yes. When you're making a bowl, you see, you're digging into a big piece and you begin to see the beauty of nature.
Yeah.
You know, the sawmill will have it clean.
Yeah.
You start taking a cut and you see the inside of the tree.
Yes.
And it's a wonderful experience.
You think trees were made for that purpose, practically? It sounds like it, doesn't it?
And of course, nowadays, wood isn't the only material available to Father Travers. He's one of those people you would describe as having great hands, as well as great originality. And some time ago, he came across a very fine set of Stations of the Cross in Carrara marble, which had been brought over from Milan, but were no longer required by the original owners.
They gave them to us. And when I retired here, I saw them and I thought, why are they in a shed?
Yes.
So I built them in that. You know, the bricklayer story, you see, I thought, a house builder won't. He'll go mad when he sees my plans. And this young fella...
You designed this?
Scraps of paper, you see.
Yes.
And this young fella came up, are you Father Travers? I said, yes. Oh, you know my dad, he said. He lives in Camlock. And of course, I said, oh, yeah, of course I know him. Yeah, what's his name? You see. But I said, what are you doing? I'm working in Australia.
Yes.
What are you doing there? I'm teaching bricklaying.
Get away.
Now that is a coincidence.
So
a million to one.
He was sent to you.
A million to
one coincidence. Okay.
And then that's the Roman fort. You see.
I see.
SPQR. Right. Senatus Populusque Romanum. Yes. The Senate and the people of Rome.
Yes.
You'll see that on all the Roman banners.
You do, indeed. Yeah. Yes. I see you have 3 spears as well.
And 3 spears. That's where Pilate washed his hands.
Right.
But somebody nicked the bowl.
There was a bowl there.
Should
a wee hole in the wall where it was fixed
it's
in.
Gone. Right. And then that square pillar, you see, that's the Roman power.
Okay. Right.
That's the Hebrew power.
Right.
See the 7 brass candlesticks.
I see. Right.
And the Lord is between the two of them.
Between the two.
You know?
I see.
And they're fighting over who has jurisdiction over this preaching man, you see.
And, whether for devotional reasons or simply to wonder at the fusion of marble and imagination, there are 13 more stations you can visit in the grounds around Dromantine.